What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast slash webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host, as always, Jimmy. And as we start the show, we always say thank you to our supporters for helping us to grow our platform. We appreciate all the support. And please continue to share this content. Continue to give us your feedback. Continue to tell us what you like or what you dislike about the content we're putting out there. But our objective is the same. That's to highlight brothers and sisters who are doing amazing work out there in the community. From all walks of life. And as usual, got my partner in crime, Corey, with me. Corey, how are you?
Man, I'm living La Vida Loca.
Yeah, you ducking the Roni out there, man. You good?
Man, I don't gotta duck nothing, man. My immune system ready for war.
I heard that. Listen, this episode, we want to highlight a brother who is doing amazing work in journalism. So I did a little research for you, came on. And the funny thing is, I've read your work before. And didn't even put it together because I do read Philadelphia Magazine, but you contributed to CNN. I seen you with Oprah. You're award-winning journalist. So in the field of journalism, we have Mr. Ernest Owens with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Staying in the house. Staying well-read and writing. And doing my thing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Listen, journalism, that's interesting. So we probably have a lot of people watching this who want to get involved in journalism, or some young kids maybe watching this who, want to know how they can get involved. And I know the journalism has changed over the last decade or so, especially for me. I'm not a boomer. I'm younger than that. But in my lifetime, I've seen a complete shift in journalism. So getting into your story, where were you born, raised? Where'd you go to school? And give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 28 years old. I was born in Chicago, Illinois. My family is originally from there. When I was around 7 years old, I moved to Houston, Texas with my mom and my brother. My mother and my father divorced, and so she moved to Houston, worked for a small company called PrimeCo that became Verizon Wireless, and climbed up the corporate ladder there. And while I was still in Houston, my brother and I, we went to public school our entire lives. I went to Ailey Felsig High School, which was a big high school, 5,000 kids, 1,000 in my graduating class. Lizzo went to my high school. Beyonce went to my high school.
Okay.
They didn't graduate and stay, but Rashard Lewis, I think, went to my school. We had a lot of athletes, but I was not an athlete. I was a very, every man for everything kind of guy, a Renaissance guy, as I would say. I did theater arts. I did science fair. I was into school. I was a nerd, but also popular. I was the class president and the valedictorian.
Oh, nice.
And was super into school, very much into school. I got a scholarship, got a lot of great financial aid. I didn't pay tuition and got accepted to Penn. And that's how I got to Philadelphia. When I went to Philly, I was went to Penn, studied communication and public service. Thought I was going to be a politician initially. Thought I was going to go the law school path, because I always have to remind people that I started Penn and came to Philly in 2010. So this was Obama in his first term. So every black man at that time, young, they were like, you could be the president. And gotcha. I was the class president, so everyone was like, yeah, you're next. And so I thought, oh, okay, this is the way to go. But, quickly fell in love with media, fell in love with storytelling, and changed my major early on in my years at Penn, and took up communications and fell in love with it. Wrote for the school paper, did radio on campus. I did radio for like 4 years, did internships at everywhere from NBC 10 to Philly Mag. I did everything. Yeah. And quickly branched into my professional career. But, these are some of the...
So what was it about journalism
beginnings?
What was it about journalism that made you just make that switch? Because, you're going to one of the best schools in the country. You think you got to figure it out in terms of what you want to do, and you just made a huge switch. What was it about journalism that drew you in?
Well, I think for starters, I realized that the things that I wanted, and the things that I think a lot of people want in politics or other careers, I saw in media. Like, I wanted the opportunity to be heard. I wanted to give my opinion. I wanted to make an impact on people in a very easy, direct way. I wanted a job that was respectable and respected, I wanted something that made me feel like, I could have some type of level of immediate impact. And I think there's no other career field, I think outside of medicine and law enforcement that, or even education, that provides an immediate cross-sector type of field. I mean, when you think about it, everybody, no matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a politician, a social worker, a factory worker, everyone needs the news.
Yeah.
And when I looked at who was writing the stories and covering community affairs and covering issues impacting our people, I'm talking about Black and brown communities, those people don't look like us. And when they are, they're on TV. But when you're reading the newspapers and when you're reading a lot of the major hard-hitting reported stories, those people don't look like us telling our stories and talking about our community. And that meant something to me. And that was a gap that I said to myself, this is a problem that I think I can help solve and I can help fix. And this is something that I felt comfortable doing because I always knew how to write really well. And this was something that made me stand out. This was something that when I think about all of my friends and all the people I grew up with, the one thing that everyone said was, you can write. And so right in front of me, my career was in front of me, and in a way that I never thought it was.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely correct. Controlling the narrative in terms specifically with our people is very important. A question I have for you is, because you've written for a lot of major publications, a lot of stuff that everyone reads, the big boys. What was it like to see your first piece? What was your first piece that was published in a major publication, and what was that feeling like to see that?
Oh wow. I would say I was 21 and I was a junior at Penn at the time. And I got a chance to participate in an essay contest for Ariana Huffington. At the time, it was the Huffington Post. Now it's called HuffPost. Mm-hmm. And there was a contest because she was coming to Penn to speak as a big Renaissance speaker, like a big symposium speaker. And she basically had this contest where she said, like, in 500 words, write about why the media is important. And she was looking at them, her team was looking at them, and they were going to pick the best piece. And whoever got that piece was going to get to meet her backstage, and it was going to get published on the Huffington Post's website. So I was like, what? Like, let me give this a shot. And I found at the last minute, wrote the 500-word essay while I was in another class for a lecture because the deadline was coming up. So I was not taking notes, which paid off. But I was writing this essay. So I didn't even get to draft it. I just kind of did my thing. I kind of freestyled it. And then I sent it to the people, the team over there. And then I think the next day I got a phone call that was like, yo, you won. I'm like, what? I won. And they're like, yeah. So I was not expecting that. So I had to run to the barber shop, get a haircut, throw on my suit. I only had a couple hours to get ready. Got a haircut, didn't even make an appointment, so that was crazy. But my barber was looking out for me that day, and he knew what was going on, so he set me up right. And then I got there, went to the event, met her, shook her hand, and I had a business card because that's what they did in school. We all had business cards, even though we didn't have businesses at the time. But prep, you have to dress the part. Mm-hmm. And so I gave her my card, and was just very grateful when she gave me hers. And I sent her an email after the piece came out and just said, hey, thank you so much. Just did a follow-up, which is very crucial. People ignore the follow-up. So I said, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very grateful for this. Thanks a lot. One day I hope to write for you all in the future. That's kind of how I framed it. And she responded back and said, thank you for your remarks. She CC'd her assistant and said, if you like, we can set you an account and you can write for us now.
Wow.
And she set me up an account and I started writing for the HuffPost nonstop. At that moment, my career started.
Yeah,
and I started writing professionally like that. That was in 2012.
That's a gem right there, Corey. Like, so for the people watching,
that follow-up piece.
Yes,
follow-up piece was everything.
Malik has a saying that the fortune is in the follow-up, right? Because a lot of people don't follow up in business in general. So that follow-up got you, a job or an opportunity, I should say that.
Yeah, it was opportunity.
A lot of people would kill for. A lot of people would kill for at that point. Because I remember with the Huffington Post. Well, I mean, it got to the point.
Yeah, they were hot.
Yeah, they were hot. They were the hottest thing on the internet.
And that was, and the thing was that a lot of people didn't know how old I was when I was writing. That's how I started to build my following on social media. I had created my Twitter account at that time. Around that time, I had began to really rebrand myself, and it was around that time, and I had everything ready. So people thought I was older than what I was because no one actually really looked me up. You know, they just kind of just read what I was writing. I was writing very adult work. Like I was writing, you know, I was an adult, but I was writing about topics and issues that someone in their 30s, 40s, 50s would write about. You know, I wasn't reading or seeing people my age write about the topics that I was talking about on a national platform in that kind of way. Especially people that were, you know, that were Black. You know, we were limited on, you know, where we could write. And I think, you know, just that. So it was a crazy opportunity. You know, I was writing up against like big scholars in the industry and, you know, seeing my byline right next to theirs on headlines and looking at the most popular list. And I'm like, okay, there's Eric Michael Dyson up here. There's, you know, Marco Lamar Hill right here. And here I am right here. You know, it was surreal. And it was my big break to getting familiar with the internet, getting familiar with the trolls, getting familiar with the instant requests. I mean, I was groomed for it early.
Yeah, and I see that you know, so you use that platform to build up your own platform. So you're very entrepreneurial in that way. You have your own media company at this point.
Yes, I do.
But I see how you leveraged working for the various platforms to build your own platform. A question I have is, do they have a problem with that? Some of these bigger platforms, because you know you're basically moving everyone to your platform, or do they just recognize that that's part of it?
I think they have to deal regardless. I don't know.
It's just because media has changed. Like, so I'm very interested in how like this change of media and how it like really goes down. That's an interest of mine. It's weird, but I see how you built your Twitter following up.
Yeah, I think part of it is just that at the end of the day, a lot of these media companies cannot afford to get talent and pay them full time and get them to that point. And so when you're working with professional freelancers and independent contractors, there is a give and take. And a lot of newsrooms cannot afford to have the big, huge 200-member editorial teams they used to have. And so what was replaced for them were temps, which are like, you know, basically temporary writers, contracted writers, everyone else. And in doing that came an agency and a freedom that those writers got, because at that point, the same contracts, they weren't getting the same pay. And so for me, I found the hustle in it very early. I've never worked for a full-time media company in my entire life. I've always been contracted independent. And part of the reason why I was always invested in personally, I mean, trust and believe, I've gotten offers. Some of these places would replace someone and would put me in a heartbeat. But what I found out very early in my career was about the freedom, the freedom to talk my stuff on social media, the freedom to be able to recognize my power and voice in these contracts, and also not in the contracts, but just also with the content. Every story that I've ever written, I have had a role in picking it. No one has told me or directed me and said to me, you're going to write about this and this is how you're going to write about it. I have been able to say that for my entire career, I've been able to pick the stories I want to write about, the topics I want to write about. And, you know, I've worked with editors and things like that, but I have had the agency. And also I own my writing in a way that I can be able to use it for other things, put it in books and, you know, take quotes and move it there. But it's like being a music artist and owning the masters to your work.
No,
that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's gangster. Like, so you've been doing you've had agency your entire career, and that freedom has allowed you to blossom as a writer and do the things that you had to do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're
partnering. But it's not easy. It's not easy though. It wasn't easy in the beginning, because you have to remember, like, I'm going to a school where so many people go to Wall Street, they get big salaries. They are coming out, you know, you have to explain to your parents, like, I was on Obamacare, right? Because, you know, I get to stay on my mother's insurance until a certain age, like I think up until 26. So then you have to go out and it's like, everyone's like, okay, you know, you went to this school, you got this Ivy degree, you know, you're supposed to be doing this, that, and the third. And this is in the early years, right? So it was having to overcome a lot of the egos and a lot of the expectations other people have for you. But, you know, for me, it wasn't about that. I had a vision. I knew what this business was. And I wasn't going to let people tell me about my career field and they weren't in it. So people who were telling me and giving me advice, I had to take a step back and say, well, are you in the media industry? Are you in journalism? Is this what you do? I get your concerns, but at the end of the day, this is my life and this is my reputation. This is my career. And if the ship was going to tank, it was going to tank. If it didn't, it was going to do it. But I made personal sacrifices. Like for me, it's like, okay, when I first started off, I'm like, I don't want a home. I don't want a car. Like I don't want those things. I don't even know how to drive actually. But these were the things that I was impressed with. There were people who they wanted to get a job so they could work 40, 60 hours a week. And then have a house and be a homeowner and have a dog. And I'm looking like, but you're 20, you're 21, you're 22. Like I'm 28. Like I just felt like there was a weird cultural expectation. This is what happens to a lot of young people that come from privileged backgrounds, people that come from Ivy League schools where they want to be super, super grown so fast.
Yeah, they feel like they have to. They feel like they have to connect these dots. Like I have to do this by this age.
They have to do this immediately.
It's
and
weird.
I said to myself, it don't make sense. It's like I don't need a house. Like the kind of money they was making, the salaries they were making. I mean, it's good money, but it was money that's like, what are you going to do with $100,000 to some $1,000 and you don't have student debt, or you are somebody who want to just have this super, super expensive apartment in Manhattan just cause. Like I was just, to me, being an entrepreneur and being a business owner early and thinking like that early taught me how to show the value of the work and to understand what to invest in. So a lot of the money I was making back in the day was invested in my business. I put that money in my business. I put that money in my traveling. I put that money in training for my conventions to network more. I put that money into the clothes I was wearing for interviews. I put that money into the company.
You invested in yourself. You invested in yourself.
I invested in myself. Yeah. I just was not going to spend money. I lived in a $450 studio apartment in Philadelphia on 50th and Arch.
Got you. All right, I mean, you dropped a lot of gems right there, because one of the things we often talk about is like lifestyle design. And that's about doing what you want to do and doing what works for you, and not just trying to meet societal expectations that a lot of people fall into that trap. And that is a trap. That's absolutely a trap. Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah. You just, like he said, you dropped 1 million bars in there, because you said, instead of trying to do the things that everybody else wanted you to do, you said, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not listening to people who don't know where I'm going. You know what I mean? Or
right.
You know what I mean? So that makes a lot of sense as far as, entrepreneurial pursuits, and anybody in our audience that's listening to that, take heed to what he just said. I know what I wanted, and I wasn't listening to people who couldn't help me get there. So that's love.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple questions for you as a follow-up. Because again, I told you, I'm just interested in journalism. Where do you see the future of journalism? So we see like, the digital space and how crowded it's being. But like I said, I now see the actual writers becoming bigger than the platforms they write for. So what is the future of journalism in your opinion?
I think that, I'm glad to say that I was a part of the trend at the beginning, which is that you're going to see more journalists. You're going to see the market get smaller, as far as you're going to see fewer publications. I think there was a big wave in the earlier years of, we're going to create all these niche publications and all these unique small blogs and things, and people were going to expand these things. But the money and the profitability is just not there to sustain these things, because see, people can get the money to build the brands, but then they want to get writers, and then they want quality. And it's like, well, you got to pay for that. And they don't have the budgets to pay for the quality. So it's like, it's easy to set up a publication, but then you have to recognize that writers and writers' rights, right? Writers need to get paid. Writers need to make a decent living. Writers to do writing and to do really good journalism requires big budgets. And so that model is going to always be desired, because viewers are going to want bigger, better, more innovation. And so I don't think you're going to see a couple of these publications shrink. You're going to see the ones like the New York Times and places like that continue to stay relevant and be strong, and they just got it, right? They're like the Walmart of the business at this point. you're going to see those places stay. But a lot of these niche ones, they're going to get small or whatnot. But with writers specifically, you're going to see more writers because there's going to always be a desire for writers. You're going to see more writers. You're going to see more diversity of writers. You're going to see more entrepreneurial writers. You're going to see more that are like, you know what, I'm not going to work full time because I don't think the industry can sustain to keep all these people full time with raises, with promotions. So you're going to see more editors. You're going to see certain people. You're going to see the superstars stay on contract, right? But you're going to see some bigger stars, some other stars. It's going to be like, you know what? I'm writing for 4 or 5 different publications simultaneously. Like I have always in my career been writing for more than 5 publications simultaneously. Like I stay getting contracts like every season. I'm writing for new people. I got something with a national magazine coming out. I'm having another conversation right now, another national magazine. Like the industry is looking for fresh new talent and people who got their stuff together. And so you're just going to see more of that, I think. Okay. It's already happening right now, but it's just going to continue to be in that direction. The days of I'm going to start a magazine. If you're not Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or somebody who's got a big funder behind you, you can do that, but is it going to pop?
Yeah, I mean, even with big funding, I don't know how profitable moving forward magazines. Well, you know, I guess it's digital, but at the same time, who knows? But this is interesting. Yeah. Like I'm getting a lesson on the business of journalism is very interesting because again, that's one of those things that have been around since the beginning of time, and you just like you know, you see it like just it's revolution. It's been revolutionized. Let's say that. Now, as a writer, got a two-part question before we get you out of here. As a writer, who are a couple of your favorite writers, like, you know, that inspired you? So as you like were coming up, you read their work and say, oh man, they're good. Who's some of the writers that have inspired you?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 that just stick to mind. So Charles Blow, who's at the New York Times. Charles Blow is a columnist who I've got to meet. He follows me on Twitter. I've met him. We've spoken. He knows who I am, which is, I'm a stan. He's a columnist who wrote a really good book called Fire Shut My Bones, which came out a couple of years ago, and I read soon and connected to it. He's a Black bisexual journalist, and he is also an author. He's also a commentator on, I think he's been on CNN, and he's been on I love his career. Like I looked at how he was able to be, you know, kind of really multimedia and be his full self. He's from the South. You know, he went to Grambling. He just is someone who I thought, like, that's the kind of career I'm trying to, you know, shoot after in that kind of way. Like he writes, you know, from the heart. And another actual woman who is incredible, Nicole Hannah-Jones. And she's also the New York Times Magazine. And she does a lot of stories around segregation in schools and redlining. And she is boss. And I also know her. And I've met her several times. And she's just great. I mean, she is fun because she's herself. I mean, she talks her stuff on social media, but she does some really great investigative writing and some really in-depth stuff. But she's also able to have her own voice and be opinionated in a way that is really refreshing and different. And these are writers and people I love out there. I love Oprah, of course. I love Byron Allen. These 2 just are Black people own their own media companies that are like creating spaces for other Black people. And I have a unique relationship with both of them. So with Oprah, you know, I mean, I met Oprah. She I gave me a chance of a lifetime to interview her and her people.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I Googled you, just do some research before we came on. That picture popped up. That pops up when you Google search. The picture with you and Oprah.
That's the shot. That's the shot. And then Byron Allen, I haven't met yet. I that's on my to-do list. I need to meet this man in person. But he owns the Griot, and I write for the Griot. And everyone who's there is Black, and he's given a lot of young, talented Black people platforms like myself to get our first starts and getting some really good buzz and press. And so I love it. Black-owned publication. And, you know, one thing I'll tell people is that one of the things I've made important in my career is that no matter where I'm at, I've always support Black media. I'm always on Black media podcasting shows, whether it's WRD, whether it's, you know, doing interviews for the Tribune, whether it's being on the board of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I'm always advocating for the importance of Black media, specifically in the industry, because we're at a time where they're talking about us, and we need to be talking about us. We need to be owning those stories. We need to be at the forefront of those stories. And I'm championing for a lot of journalists and media folks out there to tell our stories, to do these interviews, because there is a lot of money to be made out here. There's so many bags to secure out here, and there need to be Black folks owning those Black stories.
Man,
so
that's amazing.
That's something I care about.
Amazing point. Amazing point. Amazing point. One more question. As a writer, gotta get this too. Give me a couple of your favorite books that have inspired you. I got your writers. Now give me a couple books that have inspired you along your journey.
Books. I mean, there's so many.
I know as a writer, it's probably like thousands, but just give me a couple that come to mind.
I got some. Fire Shut in My Bones by Charles Blow, which I talked about earlier, which is really great. Wesley Laurie, who is a good friend of mine, has a book about They Can't Kill Us All that talks about Ferguson, and that's a really great book. This is not a book, but it's a great project, the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones.
Yeah, I read that. I'm actually listening to the podcast now.
She's dope. That project is dope. People should know about that. There's a friend of mine named Darnell Moore who has a great book that's out there. R. Eric Thomas has a book called Here For It that just came out. That's fire. Feminista Jones has a book right now about Black Twitter, about activism, about how she helped mobilize a movement called Reclaiming Our Space, which is really good. And oh gosh, I have a book that I'm writing in the works right now.
Okay. I
can't get into too many details. I have a book agent right now, and I'm currently working on a book about some of my personal experiences and things.
So when can we look forward to when can we look forward to that? How far off?
Within a year and a half.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
It should be ready within a year and a half. But yeah, it's a lot of great books. And I mean, of course, Becoming by Michelle Obama. I just think anybody should read that, male, female, in between, whatever.
Yeah, that was a good book. I
read that book.
That was a good book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you dropped a lot of gems on us, giving us a lot. I mean, I appreciate your time. A lot of the information you gave is powerful, especially about owning our stories, telling our stories. And, you know, just the way you talk about ownership is very inspiring. But what's the future for you, Ernest? Like, what do you see for your future outside of the book you're writing?
Well, I'm getting married. I'm engaged currently.
Okay, congratulations.
So my wedding is next year. So looking forward to that. I'll be 30 next year. I'm currently in a master's program at USC, University of Southern California's Annenberg School of Journalism and Communications. So I'm getting my master's. I should be done with that at the end of this year, walk on the stage next spring in LA. So that's important. So I got that. You know, let me tell you something. Like in this industry, something is going down all the time. I can't predict what it's going to be. I mean,
I know you've done TV. I know you've done TV before. I
want to keep doing that. Like, listen, there are some people that have reached out to me about doing some things on TV. Honestly, the fun thing I always say when I get asked this question is, everything that I'm doing right now, I'm in love with. I want to keep doing what I'm doing now, but just bigger. So what does that mean? Bigger publications, bigger TV, bigger outlets, bigger checks. Like what I'm currently doing in my career right now, the setup is right. This setup that I've created for myself has been years in the making. It's perfect. It's where I want to be. I get to work from home. I get to, I get to serve on my leadership boards. I'm in the right environment. All I want to do is just enhance it. So, I just want to be deluxe. Right now we super, but we want to be deluxe next year. So that's why I'm at. Like everything I'm doing right now, I just want to upgrade it.
Yeah.
But it's the right car.
It's always beautiful to talk to someone that's that knows what they want to do and found their passion, and you're in your lane and you just, like you said, just bigger and better. Man, Corey, before we get in here, anything you want to say, Corey?
I just want to say, man, I'm proud of you running full speed at your goals, and you've already achieved what you you achieved and you running full speed at the things that you want to achieve. And so, like, super proud and super, you're doing amazing things, and I'm happy our audience is going to get a chance to meet somebody who, can help them move in the way that you can.
Absolutely, because the business of journalism is important. That ownership piece is important. Own our stories. Like, I can't stress that enough. That's just so important. So I just want to say thank you. Much continued success to everything you're doing. We look forward to seeing you. Like, I saw you on CNN a couple times, so I'm looking forward to seeing you because I see you on all the big platforms. So continue success, bro. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Yeah.
And it's a great show, and the platform is awesome. And just keep telling the stories and just spotlighting people out here. So thank you.
Absolutely, and we're going to share all your information so people can get in contact with you if they want to. For our audience, we got the By the Hood merch. Make sure you check that out in the description, or as well as the show notes. Check out what Ernest has got going on. And read some of his stories. He got some powerful stories. He went from being a politician. He went from being a politician to putting all their dirt out there. So, just
drop something on their head the other
day. Yeah. I read it. So, got a lot of amazing work out there, and we'll make sure that we share that. And to the people out there, listen, ownership. We always talk about ownership. Listen, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. Game elevates, man. We love y'all. And we will see y'all in the next episode. Peace.